Jake Tapper had an interesting panel on today in which he discussed what the Republicans have to offer. One of the panelists said he cannot figure out what Republicans want to do to move society forward, to move Americans forward. And the Republican panelists on as well just about echoed the same. Interestingly, what Jake Tapper did was played a segment of Donald Trump's speech, actually several little segments of Donald Trump's speech, where he showed how crude he was, how uncivil he was. He went after Nancy Pelosi. He went after, it was just barbaric, the things that he had to say. And then they came back. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I have no idea what it is the Republican Party wants to do in the United States of America that's going to solve problems for people. Say what you will about the Contract for America. It had a program. I'm old enough to remember when Republicans had conservative ideas to solve problems like cap and trade was a Republican idea to deal with the environment. The healthcare marketplace that Governor Romney had was a Republican idea to deal with healthcare. What is the conservative market-oriented solution to the 23% of Americans who are in the sandwich generation who are trying to deal with their parents on that? We can tell you deal with their kids who have learning loss from COVID.
So I
don't know what the Republican plan is.
Well, let us hear from one of the leaders of the Republican Party right now, Donald Trump, who leads all the polls to be the presidential nominee. He was in California at the Republican Party convention in California. And here is some of what he had to say to the delegates there.
If you rob a store, you can fully expect to be shot as you are leaving that store. If somebody's beating you by 10, 15, or 20 points like we're doing with crooked Joe Biden, let's indict the motherfucker. Let's indict. We'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way?
He's still suffering from that. And it's still painful for that. This is her husband of many decades. She loves him and it's painful for her to, and he's making light of it.
This is the exact type of extremism, cruelty that is eroding the foundations of our democracy and that Americans are rejecting, that I am rejecting, that we ran against in 2022, wholesalely rejected for the first time in West Michigan history. And Americans are rejecting it across the board, and they're going to reject it again.
Yeah, what people want to hear, Jake, and to answer Jamal, close the border, right? We've got to secure our border. We've got to figure out what we're going to do with immigration. We got an immigration crisis in America, right? Mm-hmm. You talked to AOC about this. We've got to figure out what we do with our spending. Right. She says, the rich aren't paying their taxes. Listen, the top 1% of wage earners in America make 24% of income, pay about 50% of taxes. The bottom 50% pay about 2% of taxes.
I think she's talking about the top 0.0.
Okay, but my point, there is a marketplace of ideas. American people deserve better. They deserve a debate on these ideas.
Yes, I agree.
What's the Republican strategy? I'm still waiting for the strategy that takes gas down from $5 at the pump.
Yeah. The President of the United States released some strategic oil preserves. Listen, we've had incomes go up. We've seen wages go up for Americans. Inflation is going down. We're growing the economy from the middle class, how the president says, from the bottom up. The Republicans do not have a plan to help the middle of America solve its problems.
Congress.
Before, I want to take what that Republican panelist said lastly. I mean, he came up and he said, oh, wait a minute. I think 10% of the rich pays something like 50% of all the taxes. And, he thought he was saying something positive to say it somehow like the other folks are stragglers, not realizing that is the exact outcome of income and wealth inequality. If all the money and wealth is accumulated by the few, then the few are the only ones that will have the kind of monies to pay taxes. And that's where what we have. They accumulate all of the money and they want to pay less taxes on all the money they have acquired from the rest of us, that they have pilfered from the rest of us. So let's be clear here. Whenever you hear somebody talk about, well, look, all those rich people are paying more of the taxes, accept it. It is true. But the only reason they're paying most of the taxes is because they took all of our money. And you pay taxes as a percentage of the money, and that they are paying that much of the of their wealth into our coffers shouldn't be something these Republicans should want you to hear, because any thinking person realizes immediately if they're paying most of the taxes is because they have all the money. So I just want to get that out of the way. But what the Democratic panelists had to say afterwards was important, where he talks about, well, yeah, it's true, but inflation is coming down, wages are going up, etc. Unfortunately, I think that's not enough for Biden to say. That's not enough for Democratic panelists to say, because there are a lot of people that are just not feeling that. Median and averages doesn't help half the people. So let's be clear, half or more of the people don't get help when we look at things from the median standpoint or from the average standpoint. That's a mathematical thing. So anyhow, it is important that this message be honed in on. The other side has nothing to offer to middle America, to poor America. Not one thing. You have a president that's unhinged, that goes out there and talks about shooting people, that goes out there and talk or praise Nancy Pelosi for having had her husband injured by one of his followers. It's simply a mess.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.